I have a big stack of AVerMedia capture cards here today. Actually, that was a little misleading. Only these three are actually AVerMedia capture cards, but I've got a big care package from AVerMedia today as their new 4K line of capture cards is actually fleshed out in here. We previously took a look at their only entry thus far in the 4K capture scene, which was the Live Gamer Portable 2 Plus. I had some issues with it, some weird recording hiccups, but it's mostly been resolved, and they've got some better ones on offer, and I am super stoked. 4K and HDR captures here. We're gonna unbox these and just give you a brief overview before my review, which comes at launch date around June 25th. So let's get into it right after this.
Useful tech education and gaming nostalgia that won't put you to sleep. Get subscribed and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next guide.
All right, so I've got a big stack of stuff here today. As I said, we've got 3 capture cards. We've got what appears to be a mouse pad. I am blocking my light with that. We got what appears to be a mouse pad. And then we have 2 gaming headsets as they're now starting to jump into the peripheral line. We're actually gonna start with what everybody's here for, which is the capture cards. So there's actually 3 capture cards that we're gonna be taking a look at here today in their new 4K line. There's the AVerMedia Live Gamer Ultra, which is a new USB-C capture card, which is the GC553. There's the Live Gamer Extreme 2, which is a sequel to a card I took a look at in like 2014 or 2015. The GC551, and then there's the Live Gamer 4K, which is a sequel to the Live Gamer and Live Gamer 2 PCIe capture cards, and it has a nice little light on it, and that's the GC573, which is the Mac daddy of them. We're actually going to get to them last. First and foremost, we're going to start with what seems to be, as far as I can tell, a relatively new entry, or either they're modifying an older design, the Live Gamer Ultra. Now, all of these capture cards feature 4K pass-through, which means even if they don't record 4K, you'll be able to send your 4K console or PC input, depending on the spec of the PC input, to this capture card to pass through to your monitor via HDMI 2.0, which is really handy because I've had a lot of people ask that, like, why can't I just pass through my PS4 Pro or Xbox One X to the capture card and not have to record 4K? There's a lot to do with how the inputs are handled in the different types of HDMI, and so that's not always possible. Here we have the Live Gamer Ultra, which is, feels like a hard plastic, got some grilling in there, and then you have your HDMI pass-through in and out for HDMI 2.0 for 4K 60 Hertz signal pass-through. Lots of ventilation, some rubber feet so it doesn't slide around, and then on the other side you have USB 3.1 Type-C, which is going to allow you plenty of bandwidth for the recording. I can't really show you this because it's just going to reveal the key in a couple different forms, but with all of these, they're coming with CyberLink Power Director 15 software keys so that you can actually manage the 4K and the HDR footage and things like that, which is really cool. In this box, you get a single HDMI cable and a USB-C to USB 3.0 since it's a 3.1 Gen 1 cable in the box. Now, the card itself here, this one, it can pass through 4K 60 Hertz and HDR, so that if you're playing, you can do that, and it can pass through up to 1080p 240 FPS, and I believe 1440p 144 is supported as well. You can only capture, however, 4K 30 FPS, which, given that most of the actual 4K games on consoles are only 30 FPS anyway, that might be okay for you, the upscaled ones look really nice. Or you can capture 1080p 60 or 1440p 60 potentially from the card as well from those systems. If you're capturing 4K, it's limited to 30 FPS. And then it can go all the way down to 480p. You can capture 1080p 120 FPS as well, which is really cool. A lot of the cards can pass through high frame rate, but you can only capture 60. And their RE Central software, or another software that can support it, which can be iffy, you can capture 1080p 120 FPS. And keep in mind, you can pass through HDR, but all of that will be stripped away. You'll only be capturing SDR through this, which can be a little iffy if you don't have tone mapping. Using the RE Central software, you can capture an H.265 as well, which is a more efficient codec, although there's not a whole lot of editing support for it, so I don't necessarily see the point in that right now. I will say, for these capture cards, if you're capturing HDR, if you're capturing 4K, and even if you're capturing high frame rate 1080p, you're going to need high specs. I'm actually looking at the recommended system requirements here right now. You need Windows 10 64-bit, of course, and then they're recommending an i5 6th gen or above with a GTX 1060 graphics card or above for 4K 30 or 1080p 120. And for a laptop, if you're using a laptop, which we will test, I have that EVGA SC15, we will test because it just barely meets these specs. For a laptop, they recommend that you have a Core i7 7700 HQ or above, or a GTX 1050 Ti or above in it as well. And of course, you need a powered USB 3.1 port, and they do recommend Intel chipsets for that because they are usually the most reliable for capture cards. So this is the Live Gamer Ultra. Nothing too crazy, just a basic USB 3 capture card for passing through 4K. Something I forgot to mention about the Live Gamer Ultra is that it is UVC compatible, which means it is plug and play on Windows, which means it'll work with Skype, Discord, video chatting apps, and you don't necessarily need to install AVerMedia's RE Central software or drivers if you're not doing crazy capture. If you're doing like H265 or whatever, you will need their software. Let's take a look at the Live Gamer Extreme 2 next. All right, so the Live Gamer Extreme 2 is a sequel to the Live Gamer Extreme, of course, which is what I reviewed, like I said, back in 2014 or 2015. It was a USB 3.0 capture card. What I liked about it was that it was USB 3.0, but they still had analog support. So they had a breakout cable for component video. This one does not have that. I actually wanted to confirm on the card itself. If we take off the plastic here, they have stripped away the analog support, and you now just have HDMI 2.0 pass-through here, and then USB 3.1 Type-C. And then you still have the screw at the back because this faceplate lifts off, and you can actually print out your own customized faceplates, which is what I did with our last one. I printed out a little Let's Play Together thing back when my fiance and I were doing co-op videos. It was pretty cool. So that is still a neat aspect about it, and it just has a little interesting design, even if it takes up a lot of surface area kind of horizontally here. Also in the box, you get a USB-C to Type A connector. You get an additional screw, I'm guessing for if you lose this fancy one on the back, you can replace it, or if you just don't like it, and an HDMI cable, along with your CyberPower PowerDirector 15 product key, which is really nice. That software is not cheap. Whereas the Live Gamer Ultra boasts itself on being UVC compatible and having the HDR pass-through, the Live Gamer Extreme focuses on super low latency, which allows you to utilize the preview more effectively. I still don't recommend playing from it, and makes it a little bit more easier to sync up in live stream. So it's going to be super low latency. However, you are more limited on the features. You can still pass through up to 4K 60, but you can't capture 4K at all, from what I'm gathering here. I, of course, will have to run through full testing here. Actually, I have a reviewer's guide. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up specs just so I'm not misquoting you. Okay, yeah, I don't have a whole lot of specs here, but it looks like you can pass through 4K 60 SDR, not high dynamic range, and you can capture uncompressed 1080p 60 or lower, but you cannot capture 4K at all with this one. So this is for those of you who don't wanna do HDR, who just wanna pass through your 4K consoles and capture and stream it, and print you off a nice little faceplate, which is kind of cool. They do come with the cover designer software, RE Central, although you don't need it since it's only 1080p 60. And yeah, that's the main advantage of this one. Seems like a little bit of a lesser value compared to the other capture cards, but depending on the price points, it may be what you're looking for if that's all you need. Okay, the Live Gamer 4K is of course the follow-up to the Live Gamer series of PCIe capture cards, of which I reviewed the second one. I did not review the first one. That was before I got into the AVerMedia capture scene. This one has all of the features. So, and it's kind of a direct competitor to the Elgato 4K 60 Pro now, but it comes with some better features, which is kind of interesting. Taking it out of the box here, of course, it is a PCIe 4X capture card, which means it goes in a desktop computer, and you do need 4 additional lanes of PCIe space, which can be a problem for some of the gaming i7 and i5s, but if you're on a higher end platform or are willing to drop your graphics card to X8 mode, which is totally fine, you're good to go, because this will require a 4X slot. Now, the design is very similar to the Live Gamer 2, Live Gamer HD2 that I reviewed a while back. You've got this weird geometric triangle covered shroud. What's cool is there's actually a heatsink in there. I don't It looks like there might be a fan. No, there's not a fan in there from what I can tell, but there is a pretty beefy heatsink on that chipset in there, which is really nice. One of the only things that Gamers Nexus had to say about the Elgato 4K60 Pro, like they didn't review it at all. All they did was complain about the lack of cooling on the Elgato 4K60 Pro. So having cooling on here is important. You could, of course, mount a fan to the front of this if you needed to. And then they do have a RGB logo on the edge, where it just used to be a blue outline on the Live Gamer HD2, and Elgato's is just some white text. They have a little RGB badge, which for some of you may like. You'll be able to turn it off if you don't. Nice black, lovely looking PCB. And then simply your HDMI in and HDMI out, which is upside down again. Actually, no, it's upside up. Okay, sometimes on these capture cards, they're upside down and they drive me nuts. This one, if you insert it like this, the text is upside up. Perfect. In the box, you just get one HDMI cable and your Power Director software key, which is fine. That's all you need for a card like this. Ideally, if you're installing something like this, you know what you're doing. Now, the Live Gamer 4K here meets or checks a lot of my wish list check boxes for a capture card, and I'm super stoked to take a look at it in the studio once I can actually get some testing done. It captures 4K 60 FPS. Perfect. It captures supposedly up to 1080p 240 FPS, and in theory 1440p 144 along with that. Now, I don't know if it actually captures that, or you know, if you'll be able to pull 240 frames out of that. I'll have to do some careful testing in OBS and things like that, and RE Central to see if you're actually pulling all 240 FPS or if you're only really pulling 60 FPS. But supposedly you can actually capture 240 FPS with this bad boy, which is insane and might make it useful for someone's camera setup as well. You can capture HDR with it. Gaming capture card with HDR support. The Elgato 4K60 Pro can only pass through 240 and 144 FPS and cannot capture HDR at the moment. Little birdie tells me that might be changing, but that could be totally wrong. I'm not 100% certain. It supports H.265 video compression within the RE Central software, which is fine. You don't really need that. But another wish list that it checks on another wish list item that it checks off is it can pass through 7.1 and 5.1 surround sound, which most gaming capture cards cannot do. They just freak out, the audio gets stuttery, and I think even my Magewell PCIe capture card has issues with it as well. So that is really cool. You no longer have to disable surround for your setup if you're running this, which is going to be important for me because after our apartment move, I have moved to a setup where I'm trying to keep all of my consoles and gaming stuff hooked up to my TV and just run a really long-ass HDMI cable over to capture, and so that would be really obnoxious to have to keep turning off surround sound over and over every time I needed to do a test. So that will be really, really cool. I'm assuming it either down mixes it to stereo, or worst case scenario, it ditches the audio. Can't imagine that's the case. It probably just down mixes a stereo, which is really cool. So this is, of course, the best, the best capture card of their lineup and the best gaming capture card for only, I believe, I'll put an update on the screen if I'm wrong. I believe it's only $300, which is expensive. Like, a lot of people are mad at how expensive the Elgato is, but comparatively, again, the Elgato is $400, and the AVerMedia, or not the AVerMedia, the Magewell solution, which is the cheapest other 4K capture alternative for this level, is $800. So this is now cheaper than the Elgato, and the Elgato was already half the price of its closest competitor. So this is really freaking cheap for what it does, and that is pretty cool. I will have some pictures of the PCB once I get it unscrewed here up on screen as well. I know some people were requesting that, a little mini teardown. I'm not going to go too far because I'd like it to still work, but I'll get that, and we'll see where it goes. So again, capture HDR, capture high frame rate, pass through surround sound. Sweet. All right, so lastly, they did send me, I believe, a mouse pad and a couple headsets. We're going to take a look at that real quick. All right, so we have the AVerMedia 4K mouse pad. I was not told that this was actually coming. I was just told about the capture cards and stuff, but they have created their own mouse pad with a flash surface, whatever that means, and ultra anti-slip nature rubber, 1.3 times anti-slip. I mean, it's a mouse pad. We're just gonna check it out real quick. I always load up on desk mats and mouse pads on my tables because, as you can probably see, they get pretty trashed. Oh, and it's AVerMedia branded as well. Stream, record, and share your gameplay. Honestly, it's better than some random beach scene, so it'll show up on a desk of mine at some point in the background of a video probably, because that's what I do. Okay, so AVerMedia has also entered the gaming headset space for some reason. I'm guessing there's a lot of OEMs out there, and it's really cheap to enter the space because there are so many companies that are suddenly making headsets. So we have the GH335 Sonic Wave gaming headset, and then we have the GH337, which is the Sonic Wave 7.1 headset, which is of course going to be virtual surround sound, and I'm probably going to prefer the cheaper stereo one over the virtual surround sound one if you ever watch a headphone or headset review from me, but I'll be open to checking them out. I don't think reviews of these are embargoed yet, so depending on, or are embargoed at all rather, so depending on my schedule, these may come out before the capture cards. If you missed me saying that, because I am all over the place today, the capture cards are on embargo for actual review until June 25th, and I have an Intel judging rig challenge event right in the next week from me recording this, like right in between, so hopefully I'll get all of this done. So the tagline for these headsets are hear it all, win it all, which, whatever, it's a gaming headset. Of course, my normal recommendation is to typically go and get a proper pair of headphones and something like a mod mic or a regular mic if you really want high quality audio, but we'll go with this. Feature-wise, they look exactly the same, so we'll just cover one. Breathable velour ear pads, high-performance 50mm neodymium drivers, noise-canceling microphone on the 7.1 version, but only foldable microphone on the standard version. Expertly tuned acoustics for gaming, and then braided cable with volume and mute controls. Just looks different on the two headsets. All right, let's check out the stereo one first. Like I said, this is probably gonna be the better value, the one I recommend most, but it all depends on the driver implementation and the virtual surround implementation. You have a user's manual. Are these tied in here? They're twist tied in here. What year is this? Am I opening an action figure? All right, so you have the headset itself, and then you have ear pads. Oh. Hello. Okay. You actually have some accessories included here, which is pretty cool. So they come with pleather ear pads, which are nice enough looking. They're actually pretty soft. But then they have really nice velour ear pads that are actually pretty thick here, included in the box as well. That is really nice, even on the cheaper headset. I don't know what the prices of these are, but a braided cable and extra set of ear pads included even in the stereo headset is actually really nice to see. That's some good support. These are solid band style, which is never my favorite. Ear pads are decently thick. Microphone's in kind of an awkward spot, just kind of folds up here. Then you have the inline mic mute and then volume dial on the back. Nice braided cable, goes to a 4-pole 3.5mm cable, and then you have a splitter. So it's not USB, it is pure analog, which some people may prefer. That's not bad. I'm not a fan, rather, of solid band on the top of my head, but it's not bad. And then these velour ear pads are really nice, just will be a pain in the butt to clean. So let's take a look at the 7.1 version. Probably exactly the same. And I was correct. You get the same accessories, so I'm not gonna bother untwist tying them. They're both black. This made it seem like it was red. I don't see a color indicator on here. That's a little disappointing. That box has a red headset. This is another black one. Almost makes me wonder if I got the same headset in the box. It's got a different control dial here. You got a big volume rocker on the side, mute button, and brightness button. Oh, there's LEDs on the 7.1 surround sound one. Okay. And this one connects via USB instead of 3.5mm. Still got the extra ear pads though, so that's nice. This has been a very long video, but 4K capture cards are here, even with HDR support. And I am excited. We are gonna make some cool videos. We're gonna capture, we're gonna review. They're just under embargo. So this has been my unboxing of 3 AVerMedia capture cards, a mouse pad for some reason, and 2 headsets. Pretty neat. Hope you enjoyed. Product links to these will be in the description down below. Keep in mind they will be pre-order product links as they're not available yet. I will have my reviews up as soon as I am allowed and able to produce them. Priority on the capture cards over the headsets though, of course, as always. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe for more awesome tech content. head over to my gaming channel if you want to see more gaming related videos captured with these capture cards at some point, and I'll see you in the next one.